Today's movie is Presents, which came out in theaters this past weekend, January 24th, and it was brought to us by Neon. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who has brought us a ton of bangers, the Ocean's movies, Unsane, Contagion, and we can't forget Magic Mike, okay? And it was written by David Koepp, who has written my favorite movie of all time, Jurassic Park, well, the screenplay for it. He didn't write the book. He also brought us other bangers like Panic Room, Spider-Man, Secret Window, and Stir of Echoes. And its Rotten Tomatoes score is currently 87%. Now, when I went into this movie, I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew that it was in the point of view of a ghost haunting this family's house. And to be totally honest, I didn't really expect it to be that scary because I didn't really know how they were going to make that point of view scary. Like, if we are the ghost, or it feels like we're the ghost because it's in the point of view of the ghost, I didn't really see how it was going to be that freaky of a movie if we are not actually in the perspective of the people being haunted. And then Neon, did market it as like the scariest movie of the year, which Neon, we gotta stop doing that. We gotta stop marketing movies like that, because we did it with Longlegs. And even though I loved Longlegs, I thought it was unsettling. I think people did find it like very disturbing and stuff like that. But I think when you attach the word scary, you are thinking of like jump scares or something of that nature, not something like disturbing or haunting, or there are other adjectives that could describe a movie that is in the horror genre. And that's very much how I feel about Presents. It is not a horror movie whatsoever, other than the fact that it has this like spectral being. It has to do with something supernatural. That's really the only element of it being a horror movie. I personally would classify it maybe as a psychological thriller, definitely a family drama. But that's not to say that I do not recommend it, because I loved this movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I'm really glad that I didn't go into it knowing a lot. I just knew that I was probably going to love it because I love Steven Soderbergh and I love David Koepp. So I was like, okay, more than likely I'm going to enjoy this movie. Now, going over the tone and the visuals of the movie, because this I think is what packs the hardest punch in the movie, because we are in the POV of the ghost, and it's a true POV, because this is honestly what I was expecting from In a Violent Nature, where it was like, I thought that in A Violent Nature we were going to be like, we weren't even going to see Johnny that much. Like, it was almost like we had a GoPro on him, and that wasn't what it was. But Presence is very much a true POV. It feels like we are this presence in the house. There were moments where I truly forgot that like we weren't just like a fly on the wall in this family's home. The movie does such a brilliant job with being able to exude these emotions from this presence, which we do not hear or see or feel or anything. It's a true like spectral being. And it was able to exude these emotions with just the use of like sound and the pacing of the camera, the angles of the camera. And I thought it was just so incredibly unique. There are these wide angle scenes, and so we realize like, okay, the presence is like taking in this information. It's just looking, it's observing, it's a fly on the wall. And then there are scenes where we can tell it's getting really close up. It wants to feel and be closer to these people, and it starts to like walk closer to them and be closer to their face, and we could feel its emotions while it's doing this. And like the score will change, and I was just like, oh, I can feel that it's sad, or I can feel that it's angry. As far as the tone of the movie, it disguises itself as this like slow, mundane film, because we are getting a peek into this family's life. We are a true fly on the wall. But in reality, there is so much happening on screen. There's like so much mystery. There's information drops. Everything is so calculated and important. And the setting is just gorgeous. Wherever they shot this, I know it was in New Jersey, but like wherever this home was, I need it. I need to buy this home. It's beautiful, and how it's like decorated and lit. It's just so cozy and it's so warm. But I think that was so genius, because we can tell that it's not really a cozy home, because we can feel that there's like grief and tension and mystery just lingering there. There are scenes that feel so lonely, even though this house is like so beautiful and filled and lived in. Now, moving on to performances, I thought everybody honestly nailed their role. It's a pretty small cast movie when you think about it. There's really not many people on screen, and the main people on screen are just the family. So we have Lucy Liu, who plays the mom, Chris Sullivan, who plays the dad, Kalina Liang, who plays the daughter, and Eddie, I think it's Madej, I hope I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. He plays the son, and we also have Wes Mulholland, who plays the friend. Now, the standout character to me in this movie was Chris Sullivan. He plays the dad. I was just so blown away by his performance. I also just loved his character so much, but I didn't know that this is Eddie Madej's like first role ever, and that is so impressive. He was so good in this movie. Now, I do have to say, there are a couple of moments, like dialogue between the sister and the brother and the friend, that feel almost like cringy, but I had to like really think about it when I was like in the middle of the movie, and I was like, wait, okay, these lines were written for teenagers. They're high schoolers in the movie. So I was like, okay, this is definitely something that a high schooler would say. This is something that I would talk about or exude as a teenager. So I don't really like think about it, because I was like, no, this isn't bad writing or like bad performances. This is just like real life, sometimes cringy dialogue between teenagers. And now, as far as the pacing of the movie, it's an 85-minute movie. I thought it was beautifully paced. I was worried that it was going to be a longer movie because, again, I didn't really know anything about Presence going into it, other than that it was a point of view of the ghost. So I didn't even look up like the runtime. I didn't watch any of the trailers or anything. So when I sat down, I was like, oh my God, this could be like an hour and a half movie or like a 2 hour and 10-minute movie. I have no idea. But it's 85 minutes, the perfect amount of time for a movie. And again, even though we get these like long wide angle shots where we're like lingering and soaking up information, it never overstays its welcome, because again, there is so much that's happening on screen that you should be taking in, that I never felt like I was like bored or waiting for something to happen. Now, as far as emotional reactions, again, it's not a horror, so I wasn't scared, but it is totally haunting. It's very chilling. It's very devastating, but it's also so incredibly beautiful. And it's such a thought-provoking movie. Like, I walked to the theater and I was like, I want to go back in and rewatch it, having all the knowledge that I do now at the end of the movie. It's just such a movie that sparks conversation. It's so experimental. It exudes so many emotions that you take on as you're leaving the theater. And I'm just blown away by that. Now, as far as the rating goes, I gave it 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. However, my podcast, Dark Screen Society, just released a spoilers discussion episode today, so I will link that in the description below. But like, when talking about all these spoilers, the more I thought about it, the more impressed with this movie I was, the more that was like cleared up and I just like soaked in. And even just sitting with the movie, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So I might change it to a 4.5 out of 5. I really loved this one. It's so up my alley. I love how unique and experimental and just emotional this movie was. I mean, not even just like sad. It just exuded so many emotions. Like, it was funny at times, it was devastating at times, it was tense at times, it was mysterious at times. I really loved this one, but I'm so curious how you guys feel about this. If you've seen it, let me know what your thoughts are. Join me in the comments. I know some people did not like this. It's going to be a very divisive movie because some people loved it and some people were like, not for me. And I get it, but I'm just curious what people's reasonings are for not liking the movie. So please join me in the discussion below. I'm so curious. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.